This is Talking Law on Radio 97 with Despina Priala, and Despina happy to answer any questions to do with the law. It could be about your pet, it could be about your fence, it could be about problems with your neighbours or family or whatever it might be. Despina will be happy to answer that for you. All you need to do is pop it into an email, and you can send it to us in a couple of ways. The best way to get those addresses is go to radio97.com.au. Down the bottom of the page there's a couple of ways of getting in contact. So drop it in to a little message to us and send it to us, radio97.com.au. And Despina, you will be happy to answer that for our lovely friends.
Thank you, Wayno. So we've been speaking about the responsibility of a dog owner under the Animal Management Dog and Cat Act, because there has been I don't know if it's sudden, but there has been a spike in dog attack related cases that we've seen or heard over the news recently. So we thought we'd break it down. And in the first segment, we've got that out the way for the dog owner. And this segment will kind of focus on the wide and quite heavy powers that the council do have in terms of your dog and being a dog owner as well. So, Despina, what can council do and what can't they do?
Okay, so council do have very wide powers under this Act, and we want to concentrate on this. And I think the point that I want to get across is that you do need to be aware that they have very wide powers. So hence, what I said earlier is really be responsible as a pet owner, because you really would hate to lose your beautiful, lovely pet because of a careless act, for example. So, look, council, at a general summary of these things that they can do, and we'll go into some detail on some of them, is obviously they can issue fines, like I said before, the penalties. They can issue notices to dog owners. They can regulate the dog, meaning they can declare the dog dangerous or menacing, and we'll go through that in a minute. They can seize the dog for the public health safety for a period of 14 days. You can euthanize the dog, so destroy the dog. They can request entry to your home as part of an investigation following a dog attack, whether on a person or an animal. Both of them apply. So if we can concentrate that on a bit on entrance to your home, that's an interesting one, because they do have a general power to enter your home, but only if in the first instance you as the occupier consent to that. So you don't have to in the first instance, and for various reasons you may not wish to. So council, if they turn up at your door following an attack, they want to come in into your home. They want to have a look at the dog, look at your home. How do you regulate your home for safety issues? They want to have a look at the dog to see if it's a menacing or dangerous dog potentially. Look, without a warrant, you don't have to gain entry unless you do consent. And if you do give that consent, then there's a requirement that you have to sign a written acknowledgement at that particular time with council to say, I hereby give consent. They understand that you wanted to come in for a particular purpose. Now, on the council side, first of all, they've got to identify themselves to say, I'm from council, here's my identification tag. Then they've got to say, look, we're here for this purpose. They've got to tell you the purpose that they want to gain entry to the house. And then if you consent, then they've got to give you a document to sign on the spot. So that's just entry into your place. Okay, now if you don't give them consent, they do have the power to then go around the outside of the perimeter of the property to try and get whatever information they can. They can, of course, go away and get a warrant. Okay, so they can get a warrant from a magistrate if they reasonably deem it to be necessary, or form the opinion that they need to conduct an investigation which requires entry into a place where the dog is, and they can get a warrant. Now, getting a warrant under this Act can actually be done in a way electronically, meaning if it's an urgent situation, the warrant can be issued fairly quickly. It doesn't have to be done directly face-to-face with a magistrate if it's an urgent situation. So that's an interesting aspect to it. If it's urgent, then they've got the powers to just obtain that electronically, otherwise through normal means. So those are the powers. Now, if we follow on from, obviously there's a dog attack and the council has to investigate, and the only reason they would be investigating is, of course, if someone complains about the dog attack, right? So if there's some sort of general story and that they might have heard, they're not under an obligation to investigate unless someone lodges a complaint.
Right, so it's got to be formal. It's got to be a formal complaint.
That's right. Otherwise, council aren't notified properly, and they don't. And there's a lot of investigations that they conduct. And I have spoken with council. I've had cause to do that recently, and they tell me that each case is determined on its own merits, meaning that they're not coloured by other dog attacks that have occurred, which is what you want. You want them to assess each individual event and circumstance on those individual facts, because they're all different.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And how the dog attack occurred, what triggered, and who attacked first. Was it in a situation where they're trying to defend the dog owner? So there are all these things to be taken into account. So if we go into when can council regulate a dog, so these are quite wide powers when you look at the wording under the Act. So for a dangerous dog, if a dog has seriously attacked a person or an animal, and seriously attacked is defined to me to attack in a way to cause bodily harm, grievous bodily harm, or death. So pretty serious, yeah?
Yeah.
Or if a dog has acted in a way that caused fear to a person or animal. So that's pretty wide, because it doesn't necessarily mean they've attacked someone physically, but they've acted in a way that caused fear to a person or an animal. I'm not sure how you could prove that a dog has caused fear to another animal, but in any event, you could certainly make the case. Someone could say, look, I was in fear of my life in a situation. Or if council just forms or has a reasonable opinion that the dog may seriously attack or act in a way to cause fear to a person or animal. So that's pretty wide. I would have thought, and people need to understand that council do have these wide powers. So that's just to declare a dog dangerous. And of course, if council declare a dog dangerous, they can add conditions to the management of that pet. Similarly, if you want to declare a dog as a menacing dog, it's the same as declaring a dog dangerous, but the attack itself wasn't as serious. So when I mentioned before to attack in a way to cause bodily harm, grievous bodily harm, or death, if it wasn't as serious as that, then it would be declared potentially as a menacing dog. And then there's a process to follow where if council do that, they give a notice to the owner. There's a process by which the owner has a period of time to show cause why the dog shouldn't be declared in that manner. But once that time passes, and if council feels that the declaration will stand, then it will. And then there will be conditions imposed on that.
Now, council obviously has fairly wide powers, as you've mentioned there. Just briefly, Despina, do they enforce those powers very often, do you know?
Well, look, they have in the past, and I don't know the statistics on that, and I haven't obviously had cause to look at that. But it's a situation where the powers are there, and I have heard stories through the news about dogs being destroyed or euthanized as a result. I have heard stories, of course, too, where pet owners surrender their dog. So this is an important one to understand as a dog owner. If there's an investigation, if they actually issue a warrant, they're actually able to gain entry, they're actually able to seize the dog for an investigation. They can take your dog away for a period of 14 days to undertake their own investigations. But if you say to them, I surrender my dog, you don't ever want to do that unless you feel that you need to in a particular situation. And I say that because once you surrender the dog, it's up to council then. You've lost your ability to go through any review, internal review or appeals process. So if you have to hand over your dog as part of a seizure order, fine. But the dog generally cannot be destroyed until there is an internal review undertaken. And if the decision's made to destroy, you can actually appeal that to QCAT. So there is that process to follow, but it's a very short window to do that. Very short.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that information, Despina. If anyone does want to get in touch with you directly about this particular topic or anything to do with the law, when can they go?
Yeah, so they can phone the office 55 291 294, or they can email info@prialalegal.com.au. And look, I just want to stress again that because of these wide powers, it's really simple, I think, to be a responsible pet owner. And I think that if people can just follow the law and understand what those responsibilities and liabilities are, then perhaps we can have better management of pets. And innocent situations where people might, feel that they're doing the right thing by allowing a third person to walk a dog, as I said earlier, well, maybe you give it a second thought, because anything can go wrong. And if it's your dog and you know how to control your dog, maybe that other person doesn't know how to control that dog. Yeah. So just food for thought.
So true. Thank you so much again, Despina and Wayne. We'll be back next week for Talking Law.
We'll see you then.
See you then.